Welcome back to another video. I just thought I would show underneath the ML while I've got it on the lift, just to kind of show some of the work that I'm going to do underneath, or what I've already started doing. Have to bear with us because I'm just using a lamp. So that we'll go underneath. I mean, from the outside, this car, you would think it's got little rust scabs here and there, so you would expect like an old Land Rover or something similar. Once you get underneath, that they'd be falling to bits. But I'm absolutely amazed how good this car is underneath. So we'll start along the chassis. We're talking here, Land Rover's much newer than this, or rotten through. When you have a look at that chassis there, it is still got the black paint on it. Even the floor at the back here, where you can see it, where there's no covers, still silver. Not even any signs of corrosion. It did have little areas under here welded, but that's just the nature of these silly covers trapping water in, but that's been already sorted and dealt with. But you've got to bear in mind, they're for seatbelt mountings. These cars have a body onto a chassis. This is your main structure of the car. These are still part of the MOT for seatbelt anchorage points, but the main chassis of the car is absolutely brilliant condition to what I was expecting. For a 54 plate car, that's done quite a lot of standing around. If you look up, what I'm going to show is some work I've already done. You can see all the cross members and huge exhaust system, along with 3 cats. One there, major cat, and 2 pre-cats which come off the V6. Engine is bone dry. The gearbox, bone dry. I'll come forward here to the sump. It's in good nick. I've just been coating some of the pipes to keep them right. All the wishbone arms, that just really solid, thick gauge steel. So there's no chance of worrying about those being of any issue. That's just surface corrosion. We'll go back again, things that a lot of the Japanese cars suffer with. And I'm sure my new L200 has got a metal tank. Why do they use metal tanks? Plastic tank. Yeah, I suppose if you give it a knock or doing some serious off-road, you could do damage, but they never rot and you never have no problems. This back sub from here, it looks wet, but I'm getting on to my next point here. Rear diff, absolutely bone dry. Even onto the back here, normally don't ask why, it must just be the way the water flies back when you're driving. The rear end of cars always seem to be worse than the front for corrosion. I don't know why, but it just seems to be the way it is. And the back chassis is just great. That is very good condition. This back crash bar as well, it's solid. As you can see up here. By the way, this is starting to look a little bit wet, but I'm getting on to my next point. But these areas here, they always go, and that is absolutely solid. That bit of brown coming through, there's rust starting, but that is solid, Full stainless steel exhaust. So, the life of the car. This one here isn't stainless, but it's still the original Mercedes exhaust. They last for ages, to be quite honest. There's a little scab starting there, but it's not. It's just, they've got like about 3 skins to them, so they're fine. Prop shaft, again, buried nicely in between there. But that's fun to get out. But anyways, I'm getting on to the point at the back what I've been doing. It's had 2 brand new rear springs, and these are a nightmare to do. We actually sent this off to have done at a different place because you need a specialist spring compressor. I don't know if you can quite see, but the gauge of that spring there, I'll have a look down here. There you go. This is a spring off a regular, I think it was off a 2-litre Mondeo. That just looks like a piece of welding wire compared to that. You try compressing that, and that gets the old bottom twitching. A really bad job on these to do. And you might have noticed at the front, there's no springs. A shocker. That's because these use torsion bars. See this long bar going along? This here is your front spring. They're quite good if you want to do a bit of off-roading and you want to rise the height of the vehicle or lower it. I don't know why you would want to lower an off-road vehicle. You just simply take these off and turn them up or down, and that adjusts the car's ride height. And then obviously you would have to match the rear springs to go with them. So anyways, what I'm onto at the back here, this stuff that looks a bit damp, You can get all sorts of expensive rust treatments. You can do the full wax oil. I'll show an image of a can over here. I might do a video on this separate on another car of actually doing the job, but when you're spraying stuff around with a mask on, I can't really speak and it'll get all over the phone. But you get the proper Hammerite wax oil, which is quite expensive, and you can get the Tetraseal. But I must admit, this stuff seems to be a lot better to put on, especially when it's cooler weather. It may not have the brand name, but I found it does just as good job. So the only thing is with this car, as we're mentioning, we're keeping things cheap. It's just a budget car to do a bit cheap off-roading, so I'm not going to spend a lot of money on doing a full underbody wax oil. That is what wax oil looks like, by the way, in its form. You can, at this time of year when it's cold, we don't do it. It's just not worth doing it because it won't spray out the gun. But the next best thing you can use is if you can find a really thick grease that actually sticks. You don't want something that's going to wash off or run off onto the road surface, but this stuff, once it dries, it kind of goes on like a tar kind of stuff. It won't come off. It has the same texture as a wax oil, and they're only a couple of quid a can. So just to give it a cheap, I don't want to go too, putting the thick kind of wax oil, like the, what do you call it, the Schultz and the Underseal. It's like black tar you spray on. I don't want none of that on it. For a start, when somebody comes to buy the car, it masks where the car could have had welding or it could be rotten to bits. So you don't want to go layering it on, but you just spray a thin layer of that grease and leave it overnight to dry on all of the areas that you want to protect. As you can see, which I've done, it's like the rear subframe. You can see it's had new brake pipes on. And it just gives it that layer of protection. I'm not going too wild because I'm still on with assault on the roads. I'll probably use a few more and do the rest of it. But I've done the right-hand side of the chassis all the way along. As you can see, it creates a protective barrier. But what it doesn't do is hides things. So when you come to, sell the car, something like that, it just looks better. It looks exactly the same, but apart from there's a very thin layer of protection. Clearly it's not going to do anywhere near as good job as wax oil, but it doesn't take long to do at all. So yeah, I mean, before anybody wants to make comment, the little bits where they've got overspray on the exhaust, I'll rub it off, but it's only going to just burn off anyways. Grease won't catch fire, it'll just burn off. So anyways, yeah, just thought I'd give everybody a look underneath of the Mercedes. Obviously 4-wheel drive, so you've got your... This is a bit different. You don't have on my L200 you have a live, what you call a live rear axle, but this is built more like a car basically. You've got your your main prop shaft, your two drive shafts, and your differential, which leads down to this is what you call your transfer box, which does your low range. But this car's permanent 4-wheel drive, so there is no switch between 2-wheel and 4-wheel. And then you lead on to your main automatic gearbox, which is absolutely massive. And I bet you it would take at least 2 or 3 people to lift that down. That probably weighs more than the engine in most average family cars. And there's your front differential, which leads, again, it's nothing like the Land Rovers where you've got a live rear axle. And even my Mitsubishi, it's just 2 drive shafts like a front-wheel drive car. And your differential, which will have, there you go, a short little prop shaft, which leads to your transfer box. See, so your front drive shaft, that drives your front wheels. So power comes out the gearbox, into the transfer box, drives to your front wheel, and you turn here at the other side of it, and that's to your back wheels. Permanent 4-wheel drive, you see. So I'll go to one other point with these. That is a very important point with permanent 4-wheel drive cars. A lot of the Audis, the Quattros, the 4Motion VWs, when they're permanent 4-wheel drive, a major issue is when you have different tread depth on tyres. So this car got 4 matching brand new Continental tyres. In fact, the front ones, they're just the same as the back, but they're due probably a switch around to keep everything equal. If you say get a puncher and you've got say 3 almost baldy tyres, and you put on just one brand spanking new tyre with 3, partly worn, almost worn out tyres, you can cause diff wind up, and you can literally blow. I've seen it on Kias and Hyundais where you can blow your transfer box and your diffs and gearboxes up. So if you've got a permanent 4-wheel drive car, regardless if it's a Subaru, a Mercedes ML, whatever, just make sure you keep all of your tyres. They don't have to be matching treads or anything like that, but try and keep them all to be matching tread depth. Ideally, the same tyres, otherwise you'll give yourself big headaches. One thing I don't like about this, you've got these great big chunky tyres and a stupid space saver. At least they've put a spare wheel on it, I suppose, but, you know, imagine towing a great big 2-ton caravan with this car and having to exchange one of those for one of those. Actually, you can see the boot floor. Can you see up there? There's not even... If this was... I'll call my own car here. If this was a Mitsubishi or something like that, that would be rather crusty by now on a 54 plate car. And that is brand new. I've not had a great deal to do with this car over the last few years. My dad's been doing... just by chance, he's been doing quite a bit of the work on like another car on the day that this has been in, so I haven't paid a great deal of attention underneath, and I'm really over the moon of how good it's turned out to be. It's absolutely solid, because if anybody decides to do MOT checks and stuff like that, you'll see there's quite a lot mentioned about corrosion, but that was due to the sills being done. But you got to remember, sills on these cars are just, you know, mainly for seatbelt anchorage points, and as you can see, I think that there, or some, I'm trying to work it out. Yes, it will be. That bolt there, and then maybe one further back somewhere, that is where your back seat is bolted to the floor. And as you can see, where the back seat's bolted to the floor is absolutely solid. So there you go. I'll do a few like this. I would record spraying the protection along this chassis, but trying to spray grease while holding the phone, and it's getting dark using the light. It's just not really, you know, a good idea. So if you like this kind of content, ask us, you know, leave us a comment, tell us what more you would like to see, or, you know, any other. I will try and get the tripod out and do some more videos on basic things, but up to now, through the day when it's busy and there's cars coming in and out, it's a bit difficult trying to do video recording, hence the doors are closed. Got the dog ready to go home here. You know, it's just easier to do things at this time of night. So we're coming on to the lighter nights. It'll be easier to do them where I can stay back. It'll be warm. It'll be, you know, it's just the main thing is I have the doors down and speak on the phone, where every time I seem to start filming, obviously a customer will come in, the phone will ring, and, you know, you're just generally speaking to other people in here while they're working. It makes it difficult. So, yep, so leave a comment, like, subscribe, share. Thank you very much. See you next time.